Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to make a simple granny square pouch. I pulled out my stash of worsted weight cotton and I dove into this project with very little planning and really no measuring or math. Not the best way to start a project, but I definitely had fun making these. For this tutorial, I'm going to assume that you already know how to make a basic granny square. This isn't a tutorial for making the square itself, but more on how to assemble it into the little pouches. So I'm using worsted weight cotton. I started out using a 4.5 millimeter, I think that is a G, American size G, 4.5 millimeter crochet hook, but I didn't stick with that in the long run. Of course, I spent ample time wrestling the center pole out of my skeins of yarn. Let's be honest, this is why I usually cake my yarn before starting a project. I did zero prep for this. I just dove in. So I'll have to untangle some yarn so I can crochet. I decided to just go with a really simple granny square, like the basic of the basics, nothing fancy. But you could use any granny square pattern that you love and make it these little pouches with it. I got the pouches themselves, the canvas pouches, on Amazon, and I'm using Comfy Worsted for most of this video. That's a yarn from We Crochet. Of course, I'm using my favorite crochet hooks, the furls. I find them extremely comfortable and they fit my hand really well. Well, it's definitely smaller than I hoped, so I guess I'm gonna do another round of this gray because I want that to end up being my main color with just like the tiny bits of purple. And see if that makes it big enough. I need the gray to be like that big. I need to be about that big. So let's try again. I ended up doing 5 rounds of the granny square using worsted weight and the 4.5 millimeter hook, and I spent some time blocking these all to the same size to make them easy to seam together. And it just stacked them all up, spritzed them down with water, and they all come out to the same size. It's a really convenient way to block a lot of squares at the same time. Instead of weaving in my ends, I decided to glue them with flexible, washable, permanent bond fabric glue. I have found that when I make granny squares, my ends come out so quickly, and since I knew the backs of these would not be visible since they're going to have that canvas pouch against the backs, it would be more secure and more durable in the long run to glue down my ends and then trim them instead of weaving them in. Of course, the first one I finished came out completely the wrong size. So I took a walk to clear my head and spent some time doing the math I should have done to start with. I decided to go to my H 5 millimeter crochet hook and do 4 rounds of granny square, and that came out to the absolute perfect size with my comfy worsted yarn. And I made so many granny squares. I'm so proud of myself for making this many so quickly. Now for the fun part, assembling the squares. This was actually a very simple process. I simply seamed 2 together and then those together. That makes no sense. I'll explain it better. With the wrong sides facing me, so where the ends are all glued down, I did a whip stitch through just the back loops of each stitch up the sides, but I also went through each chain that I used in the corners. So I did a chain 2 in the corner of each of my granny squares. I included those 2 chains on both the top and the bottom of the granny square as part of my center seam. With your wrong sides facing together, you're going to take your 2 double granny square panels and put them wrong side together, and then you are going to do a running stitch all the way around 3 sides, leaving the top open. This is a whip stitch where the stitch goes over your work. A running stitch does not go over, it goes in and out. When I decided to make this video, I had painted my nails, and as you can see, the nail polish is gone. I think it's hilarious as I'm watching this back doing the voiceover, watching how my at-home manicure has degraded over the matter of the few days it took to make these. After seaming up the 3 sides to form the pouch, I did a single round of single crochet over the top just to give it a nice straight edge. That's also the part we're going to use to secure it to the pouch in just a little bit. I'm coming back in with my flexible fabric glue, which I will link to the one I use in the description below. I did a row of glue at the top and a little bit of glue at the bottom, and I just stretched the pouch over it, the granny square pouch over the canvas pouch, and press it into place. My fingers definitely got a little messy, but it's okay. This glue looks goopy, but it dries clear and it's not super scratchy. Like, it doesn't make the fabric feel obnoxious. You can tell it's a little stiffer than the yarn that didn't get glued, but it doesn't feel wrong, if you know what I mean. I also I forgot to take footage of this, but I did pin the granny square into place on the canvas pouch because I made it so that the squares needed to stretch just a tiny bit to take up the amount of space needed on the pouch, so they would stretch some and give a nice crisp granny square look. Removing the pins was a little bit challenging. I'm going to encourage you not to push your pins in as far as I did, because once the glue dried, they were hard to get out, and there were a couple pins that I ended up having to use needle nose pliers to remove because they got firmly glued in place because I had pushed them, the pin heads, so deep close into the work. So don't pin them quite as aggressively as I did, and you'll be fine. These were really quick and really easy to make, and I will link everything you need in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna try to be back next week to show you another type of pouch that I made for markets this year as well. So like and subscribe, please. Bye.